right, welcome to the 330 Sports Show. My name is Justin Coffin, and today is Thursday, November 5th, 2020. We are broadcasting live from downtown Youngstown, Ohio, and we are produced by Joe Danier's Youngstown Studio Network. On today's show, we have three awesome guests. Last night, I recorded a video with Steve Leslie, again, of YSN. He's going to be on to break down some of this weekend's games in the high school football regional semifinals. We have Canfield, South Range, Ursuline, Springfield, and Warren JFK still playing. We also have Major Rick Williams of Youngstown States Veterans Center coming up just ahead of Veterans Day. But before they come on, our first guest, you're going to know her probably by name and by her face. You probably see if you're in Boardman and haven't been to this place, yeah, you got to get there. So I'm going to bring in Melisa Poland of Sweet Melissa's Good Eats in Boardman. So Melisa, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for asking. This is fun.
Absolutely. So I got to know, tell us about your background. Tell us how you got into sort of, I don't want to say the food industry, but you and I talked a little bit before the show. You were never in business or anything like that. So tell us how you got into owning now your own business, which is very successful, and just a little bit about your background.
We moved here from Connecticut due to my husband's job, and I just needed to get out of the house a little bit. My kids were all, they were all school age, so they weren't with me anymore. And a good friend of mine said, "Hey, I work for this little Lebanese restaurant / grocery store. Would you be interested just to come in and help prep?"
Okay.
So I went in, got the job, and I was with that company for 7 years. I learned so much. I don't have a background in food. Didn't realize that I actually had a talent for it. Yeah. And as the years progressed and I was with them, I just slowly learned so much that you need to learn from, the food prep and the length, what you're looking at, the longevity of your products and how to combine, different textures and different tastes. And it was so much fun. And it was really easy for me. And I really, really enjoyed it. So I was with them for 7 years, and it was a family run operation. And it was time for me to remove myself from that operation. And 4 months later, I found a spot on Market Street, and I thought, if I don't try it, I will regret this for the rest of my life. I didn't really know. There's so much when you go into business, there's so much to learn, and there's not a whole lot of people to help you out there. But I did turn to the public library at Youngstown. And they kind of led me down the right direction. They told me, okay, this is what you have to look for. These are different things you want to do. And slowly but surely, the ball was rolling, and it just kept on going. And it's really scary to go into business when you've never owned a business. And I had no background. Essentially, I had no background with food. But we opened Sweet Melissa's on March 21st, 2017. And we just basically hit the ground running, and we haven't stopped yet. It has been amazing.
Absolutely. Well, and I can just say as a customer, as someone that's in there every week, I mean, you guys have done a fantastic job. You can see the growth and expansion. You've practically doubled in size since you started. So before we get into the menu and how you chose that, tell us, obviously your name is Melisa, but tell us how the name came about.
Well, I used to do all the PR work for the company that I used to work with, and I would go on the Dan Rivers show. That's how the whole thing got started. And between him and his producer, Viking Jim, they thought, Sweet Melissa. And I said, who's Sweet Melissa? Well, that's from an Allman Brothers song back in the day. And so they would actually play a little bit of Sweet Melissa as an intro before I'd go on, because I'd go on with them every Friday. And it would just be like this impromptu 1-minute commercial. So people started to know me as Sweet Melissa. And when I was contemplating what to call this salad shop of mine, I thought, what what could bring people in? And I
Sure.
thought, well, I was kind of already branded with that name, and maybe people will recognize it, and then they would come in to see what we've got. And it did work.
Yeah.
I got to reacquaint myself with a lot of people that I had left behind with my old jobs. So it was really nice to see those customers. But a lot of people thought at first, is this a sweet shop? That's why that's why we have that little green leaf as the apostrophe, because that kind of gives you the indication, oh, might be something a little bit different than sugar. So
Right. Okay. All right. So, obviously we live in Youngstown, and Youngstown's, big Italian. We're known for, the pastas, the pierogies, the pizzas, all that stuff. How did you decide on, and this is something I think that was very needed in this area. Like I said, I'm a customer. I'm there at least twice a week.
Yeah.
But how did you decide on the menu of more of a healthy, healthy style?
Honestly, it was kind of, I just kind of tripped over that.
Okay.
It wasn't intended for me to have like the healthy option. It just kind of took on its own definition as we started opening and people started seeing the menu and they were coming in. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, that's what it is. It's healthy. Well, this is meat and potatoes country.
Right,
this is pasta, and it's good food around here. People come here to eat. I mean, Youngstown, Ohio, that's what we've got. We've got good food. And so when I decided the salads and the wraps, I only decided that because honestly, I just wanted to have a place open for lunch. And I thought, what's not very heavy? Well, salads. Well, what could I do to make it a little bit different than everybody else that serves salads? I don't want to have any bagged lettuce. A lot of times you go to these restaurants and they just kind of get a bag out of a box and they rip open the bag and put it in a bowl and, call it a day. So I thought, okay, we're going to do it fresh. And the third thing I thought of was salad dressings. I don't want something that you can go to GFS or to Sam's Club and just pull off the shelf and you can recreate that same salad at home.
Sure, right.
What was really interesting was I realized that vinaigrettes are fairly easy to make.
Okay.
So I went through the grocery stores and I started reading different vinegars and different oils. And I thought, I wonder if that would taste good with that. So it was kind of like, it all kind of fell into place, and it was really unique how it all happened. And now I can't stop it from happening. Now I find myself, okay, now what kind of flavors can I put together? Because so far we have 6 vinaigrettes that we make from scratch.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we go through probably about 5 gallons of different vinaigrettes, or all combined every day.
Wow.
So,
okay.
And then, like the lettuce, I have to clean it. We clean and cut that lettuce every day. I have 3 ladies that's all they do. 5 hours a day. We get cases of lettuce in every morning. And the chicken, we do our own chicken. So I have somebody on the chicken griddle, and then I have somebody on the chicken cutting table. I mean, it is definitely a process. I went from 6 employees to now I have 25 on my payroll. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is really, really cool. So, and you and I were talking a little bit beforehand. I work with a lot of family members, and now you have your kids working for you, especially too. So, how's that like working with family?
It's really nice because I always say I'm probably harder on my kids than I am anybody else. They work full time for me. All 3 of them are in the building with me at all times. But it's really nice because I'm teaching them my work ethic. Yeah. So as hard as I'm working, they're watching, and they know in order for us to succeed, this is what we have to put into it, because it's what you put into something is what you're going to get out of it. And I guess that's probably the best lesson that I can teach them. You can always tell them stuff, but now we're working side by side, and they don't quit until I quit. And I fired them many, many times, and then I rehire them when we go home, and it's fine.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. Yeah. And I think you mentioned it, and I think that's something this area is known for too. You got to hustle. If you want to be successful, you got to hustle. Yeah. You got to grind. And you guys are doing a fantastic job. You can see your business growing and growing and growing. One thing I do want to ask too, how has obviously what we're going through, the pandemic, COVID-19, how has that changed your business?
Oh my goodness.
mentality, philosophy, whatever?
Well, 6 months after we opened, we expanded because we saw the need for people to want to sit in and, enjoy their lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And so I doubled in size within 6 months of opening, which was amazing to me. And I was really, really scared about it, but it all worked out. In the end, it all worked out. Pandemic hit. We were shut down. The first 2 weeks of the pandemic were probably the worst for us because we noticed nobody was traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Market Street looked like a ghost town.
Yeah.
You didn't see cars. We didn't have the business that we had. In fact, I had actually contemplated starting to think, okay, I'm going to have to start cutting back on hours. Okay. Because the people that are working with me, they depend on that paycheck. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to do that. I thought there's got to be something we can do that I didn't want to take their hours away. And so what I did was I went on WFMJ and WKBN, and all of a sudden the news just kind of spread. And I don't know if it was an opportunity for people to get something fresh and good, something as close to homemade as possible. Sure. I know that people didn't want to go to a grocery store and handle the rest of the packages, so that worked in our favor. And plus our salads are big enough for 2 people. Mm-hmm. So it was like now I'm doing dinner salads almost for people. And then we started growing and we started getting bigger and we started getting bigger. And the business, like I have Chow Now, where you can order online, you can pay online, you come in, you pick it up, and out the door you go. You don't even have to stay. Mm-hmm. That actually doubled. My business actually doubled with our Chow Now. Wow. And so we're getting a lot of walk-ins. One of the biggest things that I thought of when I went into business is your time at your lunch is just as important to me as it is to you. I don't want you to have to wait any longer. I mean, it's salads and wraps. We need to get really, really efficient at what we do and make sure that everybody's able to go back and enjoy their lunches. And so I think people started to really appreciate that. They know that they're not going to have to wait very long. A lot of people call ahead. Their order is ready for them. A lot of people use Chow Now. So with us, we've been very, very fortunate that it worked in our favor, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it. We've gained a lot of new faces, which we love. The customer base, I have such a loyal customer base. Probably 65% of my business is repeat customers. That's great. But we see 10 to 15 new people every day. And, once you get that first salad, it's kind of like, listen, if you try that Tuscan, our number one seller, we'll get you hooked. And that will at least get you to come back in to try another salad. Oh, yeah, no doubt. So it's good quality food. And that's what we're all about at Sweet Melissa's.
And I was going to say too, I think especially during the pandemic time when a lot of people are stuck at home and, there's, you're ordering out a lot. It's nice to have a healthy option that you can go to. And, I, as a teacher, the past few years since you guys have been open, I loved having that option of ordering it, running out real quick on my lunch break and getting back because, those like crucial minutes are very important. So definitely. I loved having that, and we appreciate you guys, and you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Tell people that might not be familiar with your business, like where you're located and and your website.
Okay, our website is www.sweetmelissasgoodeats.com. We're located on Market Street, 6810 Market Street in the Colony Plaza. It's right across from the Boardman United Methodist Church. We're right on the end cap. You can download our free app off of the iTunes store. It's Sweet Melissa's Good Eats. Just hook up a credit card to it. That way you can order online, you can pay online. Like I said, you come and pick it up. Everything's really well marked in our store.
I can say too, everything's very convenient as I'm a loyal customer and I'm there all the time. So I am I'm someone that can vouch for this. It's super simple to order online, pick up your food and get in, get out, and you don't have to worry about, crossing paths or anything like that. So, so again, we want to thank you for coming on. We appreciate you. This is crazy time for you. I know that.
It is. It's Taco Thursday.
So thank you for coming down. And we're going to transition from Melisa, and we're going to go to a video before we bring in our next guest. So I'm going to have Joe go ahead and you can cue that video up. This is a little topic we talked about on Tuesday. All right, here good. Back. I'd like to introduce our next guest here. He is or was a major in with the military. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself. He is now, I believe he can correct me if I'm wrong, but in charge of the YSU Veterans Center down at obviously Youngstown State, right down the street. So this is Rick Williams. So Rick, thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about, obviously you were a major in what branch of the military were you in?
Sure. I'm actually a retired major.
Okay.
Some of the active duty majors out there take offense.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
Calling yourself a major.
Okay.
But as far as how I got into this business, I actually went to school for business.
Okay.
I got a business degree from Kent State, and my first job out of college was a retail manager in a store called Myers. In fact, I think they're building one in Boardman.
In Boardman, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Most people had never heard of Myers. They were mostly on the west side of the state and Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky area, but now this part of the state will get to experience Myers stores. But I did that for 2 years, and to be honest with you, I absolutely hated it.
Okay.
So after struggling through that for 2 years, I decided to go back full time into the military, because I had been in the National Guard since I was right out of high school, and I'd already been in serving for 6 or 7 years at that point.
Okay.
But then I chose to go active with the military, and I spent about 13 years on active duty. And my last assignment before I retired was as a ROTC instructor at Youngstown State University.
Okay.
So that kind of paved the way for me. After I finished 3 years there as an instructor, the person who was doing my job prior to that was having some health issues and decided to retire.
Okay.
And I'd gotten in pretty good with the vice president of student affairs, who was actually in charge of that selection, and I was able to interview and get selected for that position. So
That's great.
I've been at Youngstown State now this will be my 8th. I'm in my 8th year now.
Okay. All right. Very nice. And I was able just recently to kind of get a little tour of the facility, and I got to say, never, being in a veteran center before or anything like that is just absolutely like an elite facility. It is fantastic. So tell us what you do there and how that helps some veterans.
Right. It's a unique story how we came to have a veteran center at Youngstown State University. The university's had a veterans office for years. It was always on the 3rd floor of Todd Hall. In fact, when I got hired in 2013, that's where my office was. 3rd floor of Todd Hall, clear back in the back. Nobody knew where it was. And we had close to 400 veteran students at that time.
Okay.
And they pretty much just came up there, turned in their paperwork for their GI Bill, and left, and that was it. There really wasn't much more we could offer them. But most veterans are just happy if their GI Bill's working right, because anything you do with the VA can sometimes be a lot of red tape and delays. And so they're happy if you can just take care of that part of the business. However, we had some alumni, Harry Michel, the late Harry Michel, senator, also Bernie Kosar Sr. and Carl Nunziato, 3 YSU alums, 3 veterans, and it was always their dream to have a center on campus just for veterans. And they went out and they beat the bushes and went into the community and got a lot of donations. They raised upwards of $1.3 million.
Wow.
I think the total cost of the building was over 1.4, but they raised most of that through the donations of the community. And that was my first year on the job. I was involved in a lot of the planning as far as what the building was going to look like and what it would actually do, or the purpose it would serve on campus. So that was real exciting to come into that and be part of that. And then in 2014, we actually had the grand opening for the Veterans Resource Center. Not too many campuses in Ohio, or even the nation for that matter, have a standalone Veterans Resource Center. So we're very proud of that. There are a handful out there. I can only think of 2 in Ohio, and they came after ours was built. So it's very trendy to have a veteran space on campus. Most universities like Kent State has a veterans center or space in their student center, and that's where most of them are located, in the student center. And it makes sense. It's centrally located, along with all the other services that are offered in the student center. Ours is a little different. We're not in the student center. We're kind of on the outskirts of campus, right there on Wick Avenue. But there used to be an old building there called the Peck House. It was a house that a family lived in years ago that was actually in a pretty sorry state. It kind of needed to come down, and it made for the perfect location for the Veterans Resource Center. And it's been there since 2014. Now we've had some setbacks. The first year we opened up, we were a beehive of activity. There were students over there every day, all day. But then the Wick Avenue project took place not long after that, and it almost made it impossible to cross the street from the university across Wick Avenue, and our foot traffic really went down. And then after that project was completed, we saw our foot traffic pick back up over the last couple of years, and then this virus hit. And everything went online, and as we're slowly bringing classes back on campus, we're seeing our foot traffic pick back up again. But even though we don't have the foot traffic that we had before, we're still providing that grade A service that we do to our veteran students.
That's fantastic, because we can't thank yourself and veterans for all they do, and then to come back as a student and maybe possibly go through different obstacles that the typical student or that hasn't served goes through. So it's nice to have a place of your own that you can go. I think that's just fantastic. So you had mentioned the 1.4 or so million was raised mostly privately.
Yes.
Where do you guys get some of your funding from?
Well, the university gives me a general operating budget. It's not huge, but it's enough to at least do what I got to do on an annual basis. A little bit of marketing money and advertising, supplies and stuff like that. However, we have other funding sources. Carl Nunziato, whose name is on the building, and rightly so, Vietnam veteran who lost both his legs in Vietnam, was one of the main reasons we were able to raise that money. And he's done so much for veterans, and not just veterans, but the ROTC department on campus. They have the veterans, or the Carl Nunziato Scholarship for ROTC Army members, and a lot of those cadets over there are getting their housing paid for as a result of that scholarship. He's got the Carl Nunziato fund that my building takes advantage of, where I get several $1,000s a year that I can use for programming. We were able to put a picnic area behind the Veterans Center. We've been able to have some guest speakers in to do programs for veterans over the last couple of years, and that fund really helps me do what I got to do, those things that are critical to help veterans survive. I'm going to be able to hire a graduate assistant here in the coming semesters. That's something we've never had before. So that'll only increase our ability to provide quality programming for our veterans.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Switching gears a little bit, reading your bio, it had mentioned you are one of 15 children in your family.
I am. I'm the second oldest of 15.
So when I saw that number, my eyes opened up, and I'm like, wow, I got to ask you about that. So what was it like growing up in a house with 15 kids?
Oh, it was complete mayhem. Most people, when they find out I'm one of 15 kids, they want to meet my mother. They want to know about her. What's she like? Is she still alive? Is she healthy? She's actually very healthy. And she's pushing 80, but even though we had 15 kids, she was actually pregnant like 17 times. She had a couple unsuccessful births in there as well. But when I moved out of the house right after coming back from basic training, I went to college, and I pretty much moved out at that point. We maybe only had 8 or 9 kids at that point, and she continued to have more after I left. So like I mentioned to you before this podcast, a lot of my younger siblings are almost like nieces and nephews because I wasn't there bonding with them in a brotherly, sisterly type way. But I still, we still get along very well. All of our 15 kids in our family are all pretty much local, with the exception of a brother that lives out in California.
Okay.
We all get together for events and holidays.
That's great. That's just so cool. I just, that's something I noted, and I was like, I got to ask you about that. And Rick, Veterans Day is coming up next week. Obviously I don't want to get into the election stuff, but this is a very polarizing time in our country, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever it might be. But Veterans Day and supporting our veterans, I think no matter if you're red, blue, or whatever, is something we can all get behind. If someone wants to reach out and wants to get a hold of you or support the YSU Veterans Center, or just veterans at YSU in general, is there a way to reach out, or do you have any recommendations on that?
Yeah, I actually get asked that question a lot. And we have a really beautiful donor board at the Veterans Center where we recognize those people who donate to our cause. All of that goes through the YSU Foundation.
Okay.
They're the ones that are in charge of all the various accounts. And if a donor wants to give money or something like that, they can contact me, and I tell them what to write down on their YSU Foundation card, because you have to be very specific about what you want that money to go to. And there are only a couple of accounts that I have that I can actually have access to do the things that I need to do. So I would recommend that they contact me so I can give them the proper way to fill out that letter or whatever they're submitting to the YSU Foundation to make a donation.
Are you able to share an email or a phone number that they could get a hold of you?
Oh, absolutely. The main number to the Veterans Resource Center is 330-941-2503.
Very good. So again, that's 330-941-2503.
Yes, sir.
So if you're interested in, helping out veterans, especially local veterans that are attending Youngstown State, that, give Rick a call, reach out. Again, if you haven't been able to see the building down on campus, it is just fantastic. So Rick, I don't want to keep you too long. So I just wanted to thank you for coming down, reaching out. And again, thank you for your service, and thanks for all you do for our veterans.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
So again, thanks to our guest, Rick Williams, for coming on. We're going to transition now to Steve Leslie, who is our YSN contributor, and he's going to talk to us about some 5 upcoming high school games this weekend: Canfield, South Range, Ursuline, Springfield, and Warren JFK.
When you get to this, very good teams that they're going to be going up against in every game. I'll talk about some of those, but from a YSN standpoint, we'll have 5 games. Friday night, that we'll have 2 games. Canfield and Chardon, before I get into that, will be audio only for us this week because Spectrum Cable Company is the home of the Ohio High School Athletic Association, Justin. Okay. And they will do the game live through the cable network. We will have audio with Richie Giuliano and Gary Niddle. I am actually going to be going up with Quinn Pushkar and doing a pregame show Friday night from Chardon from 5:30 to 6:30. So I just wanted to mention that. But all the other games on our network, we'll have it again, $9.99 on ysnlive.com. Gets you all the games for the week. Okay. Excited about that. But wow, it's these are some big time matchups. I'll do the Friday games Friday night. The first one, like I said, Canfield 9-0 against Chardon 9-0. Canfield beats an undefeated Streetsboro team last week 24-6. Chardon beat New Philadelphia, who Canfield beat earlier in the season 31-0. So two great teams. And the way I could describe this one, Chardon gives up 7 points per game. Campfield gives up 9 points per game. Two great defenses, obviously, for Campfield. Chris Samarone's a big key to the game. Connor Ritz, the linebacker on defense, is huge, and Luke Morell on defense. But offensively, Mike Crawford, the running back's been awesome, had a great game last week. And Brock Lowry, the sophomore quarterback, continues to be a standout for this Campfield team. For Chardon, James Pettijohn is their running back, 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns. So great skill, great quickness from what Coach Pavlansky's told me. And Drew Fetchcheck, their quarterback, has run for 600 yards and thrown for almost 900. So a dual threat. Going to be a great game. Chardon runs the wing tee. Campfield plays great defense. Two great defenses at Chardon. They're the number 1 seed. Campfield's the 3. Going to be a great regional battle. I feel honestly like Campfield wins that game, and that would be a big win again for their program. So that's the first one. The second game, Warren JFK continues the trot right along. They're 7-2. They'll play Lucas, who's 7-2. Lucas beat one of our area schools last week, McDonald, 27-14. JFK beats Dalton 28-18. Some of the big guys for JFK, obviously Cam Hollabaugh is that monster at quarterback, and on defense, he's the machine that gets them to go. But Jesse Lickens is a wide receiver, dual threat guy, going to the Air Force Academy. That's the 1-2 punch. He's the lightning. Cam Hollabaugh's the thunder. So those two offensively do a great job. But the one I want to bring out is Eddie Kiernan. Justin, he's a junior, plays center, he plays defensive end, broke his right hand a few weeks back. As the center, you're snapping the ball with the right hand, has not been able to snap right-handed. He's been snapping left-handed, which is an unbelievable effort for him, has not caused him any problems. Actually on the defensive side, had a big pick for them last week in that game in the win over Dalton 28-18. Big matchup. Lucas is a good football team, but I think JFK is the much more talented football team. And on the YSN end and the Northeastern Ohio end and 330 Sports, I think that's a game that JFK wins and advances to the state semis. So awesome. Those are our 2 Friday games, 2 good ones. Obviously, a big advantage for JFK being at home. Campfield's been on the road, been on some tough road trips. I think, and I talked with Coach Pav, this will be a game that 2 even teams, the turnovers come into play, but I think Campfield's schedule has prepared them. Chardon has blown a lot of people out. So if Campfield could stay close early, I think they win a big game, and hopefully they could get a state semi. Then you get into Saturday night's games, Justin. The biggest one for me, they're all big games, but South Range 9-0 against Kirtland 9-0. Kirtland is one of the top powers in the state of Ohio at any level. They've won state championships. They've have a winning streak that's unbelievable. They beat South Range last year in the playoffs. They beat Garaway last week 43-6. South Range beats Crestview 45-29. And the big boys for South Range continue to churn and continue to have big games. Michael Patron at the quarterback, Dylan Dominguez at the running back. Jake Gehring was injured last week. Hopefully he comes back and plays. Luke Blasco, another threat. Those 3 will have to have big games, and hopefully Jake can come back and play. Big test for this South Range team, but I love what Coach Yeagley does. I love the way this team plays, and I said it last week. Tall task at hand. Kirtland is a state champion, but you want to be the best, you have to beat the best, and that's where we're at. Opinion-wise, I think the big key for me in this game is South Range needs to stay close early, which I think they will do. And I feel like this game goes down to the last possession, hopefully in the 4th quarter. And I think, I think this Crestview group, there's something special about them. Coach Yeagley does a good job of motivating them. We talk, you and I, every week. You've heard about Kirtland now for 10 weeks for this football season. Yeah. I think it's a big chance for them to take a breath, get into their practice week and finally be able to play them. Playing them last year, I think, is an advantage for them. And I think they win the football game. I think, and I'm not afraid to say it, this will be the biggest win in South Range football history if they can go get a big win at Kirtland. And from, my end of it, I wish them nothing but the best. I know you do, but I do. I think they win. But when you go through all these games, definitely have the toughest task at hand at Kirtland, unbeaten for so many years. But I think the South Range group does it. I think there's something special about them. It's just one of those games. I have a feeling in the air that they can go get a big W. So let's hope I'm right on that one.
Hey,
The next one,
Steve, let me jump in real quick.
absolutely.
You guys did your primetime show there at South Range. How'd that go last week?
I'm glad for you asking. The primetime show was awesome. We had good response with it. One of our guys actually did a little Lee Corso, put the South Range head on when we did our picks. Crestview and South Range, both sides were very cooperative, was well received. And like I said, we're going to do a pregame show from Chardon Friday night. But Saturday night, we have another little primetime special. I will be at Ursuline with Quinn Pushkar. DJ will be at Kirtland doing the Kirtland South Range game. And Mike and Nick and that crew will be at Springfield. So we're going to do a little StreamYard primetime, 5:30 to 6:30 Saturday night for these three games. I'm glad you brought that up, and we look forward to that.
Okay.
Getting into another one, Springfield 9-0. Wow. Against Creston, Norway 9-0. Battle of the two big dogs in this region, Justin. Norway beat Wycliffe last week 20-13. Wycliffe beat one of our teams a few weeks back in the playoffs. So we got to see them. Good football team, very good offense, very talented, finished third in the region. They beat LeBray, who we have as a YSN at Wycliffe. So pretty comparable. From a Springfield standpoint, they get a shutout last week against Mogadore, one of the perennial top teams in the state of Ohio. They shut them out 21-0. I want to talk about their kicker. Clayton Medback is a Division I football recruit as a kicker. He kicks the ball. Kickoffs are in the end zone for touchbacks. Field goals, he's made a 50-yarder for the season. He's one of those guys, just it's a big key now. You get in when you need points. South Range could get him on the field goal end of it, and he also gives them great field position. As you see, a shutout with kicking the ball in the end zone, returning teams' kick returns has been huge for them. But they're two running backs. Clayton Nesbitt had another big game. Austin Tyndall, the other running back. They have the double monster running back. Those two do great. Lucas Yema, the receiver, had 2 catches last week for 57 yards. Bo Brungard ran it 13 times for 84 yards. Didn't have to pass it a whole lot in that game. I think this game will be a little more offense for the Springfield team. But the shutout, we talked last week, hats off to their defense that each week they continue to get better. Shout them out for the shutout. And this is a game where I really think they are the way better football team, and they will advance again and get back into the state semifinals in that Division VI region. So the last one of the night, and Youngstown Ursuline, D4, going to play Mentor Lake Catholic, who has been a rivalry for Ursuline for years. What's shocking about this, just the 6th seed Ursuline at home against Mentor Lake, who's a 12 seed going into this. So normal playoff years, Mentor Lake's not even in the top 8, does not make the playoffs. They beat Canal Fulton Northwest last week, the number 1 seed, who was averaging 50 points a game. They beat them 7-0. Ursuline was the 6th seed. They beat the number 2 seed, Poland, 35-7. So 2 teams that beat the higher seeds, are playing good defense, know one another very well. But from Ursuline, my goodness, the defense, first of all, hats off. Dante Walker, Matt Reardon, Luke Campbell, Ryan Pagese. Those guys do such a good job on defense. They've gotten better every week defensively, and that's what you need to win a state championship. Coach Reardon has been a part of 4 state championships. that defense is playing state championship caliber. But offensively, DeMarcus McElroy, the running back, and Dante Walker were huge last week against Poland with big runs, their speed, their athleticism. Brady Shannon at the quarterback position. Urson is kicking it into gear at the right time. One of the hottest teams that we have on YSN, and a game that they've struggled with Menor Lake the last 3 or 4 years they've played them. I think this is an opportunity for you to get a little payback at home, get a big win, and advance to the semis. And I think that, as I look over all 5 teams again, would love to get all 5. They're all tough games, but I think we play good football here, and we're hoping from YSN that we can get 5 teams into the state semifinals, and hopefully we get a state championship with one of these teams.
Awesome. Well, I think just getting 5 teams to this point is awesome in itself. But like you said, if we can get a several into that state Final Four, what a great honor for these schools.
No, that's a great answer, and it's hard to get to this point. There's no doubt. So to have 5 in the regional final is awesome for our area. We have them in each division, which is nice. But I think, there's going to be some tough ones there, obviously, but I think we get quite a few that are going to make a state semifinal appearance. And off of that, I think there's some of them that these regions are so good that our teams play in. I think in a lot of these games, the winner of this region could be the state championship, which proves that Northeastern Ohio plays good football. But from our standpoint, again, we'll have them all for you on YSN Live. $9.99 gets you the ticket for the whole weekend. Cantfield, again, will be on Spectrum Cable. We'll be doing the game live. Richie Giuliano and Gary Niddle will have the audio on YSN. So for all the Youngstown fans that want to listen, I say find a way to get the game on Spectrum. Not to be disrespectful, turn the sound down and listen to Richie Giuliano and Gary call the game. Obviously, we'll have the pre-games Friday night and Saturday night, and another big weekend for YSN and another big week for all our schools. And again, from all of us at YSN to you guys at 330, hats off to what you guys do as a company. It continues to get better every week, and we're proud to partner up with you a little bit and let us promote YSN. It's an awesome thing, and look forward to let's get at least a couple wins so we can talk again next week.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Steve, thank you. Thanks to your crew. Thanks to the YSN team, and like you said, hopefully we'll be talking next week about a few more of these teams. Moving on.
All right, sounds good, and nice job last week with the Buckeyes. Let's keep that train rolling because I like what I'm seeing.
We got Rutgers this week.
I think, you don't want to be that guy, but I think we're okay this week.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, have a good night. It was great talking to you.
All right, thanks, Steve. Take care.
All right.
All right, so welcome back. Again, would like to thank Steve, Leslie from YSN. Love to thank Rick Williams, veterans coordinator down at YSU, and obviously Melisa Poland, Sweet Melissa from Sweet Melissa's Good Eats. So great lineup of guests today. A lot of good stuff. We have, let's say, about 10 minutes left where we're going to close out the show with, we're going to start with some picks that I made for this coming weekend. So first game I'm going to start with is I'm going to start with the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes and Rutgers. Ohio State coming into today, I just looked at the line, was they're a 37-point favorite over Rutgers. They are at home. I'm taking Ohio State. I think that should be a 6 touchdown advantage for the Buckeyes. So I think that line should be like 42. So I'm taking Ohio State to cover that spread. I am also going to go, this is probably the second biggest game of the weekend. I'm going to go with the Florida Gators plus 3.5 over the Georgia Bulldogs. And if you're not familiar, This year is going to be a little bit different, but that game, Florida and Georgia, is always played at a neutral site. It's always played in Jacksonville, and they call that the world's largest cocktail party. Basically, it's just a big party down in Jacksonville with Florida and Georgia. It's kind of the halfway point for both of them, and that's a game. And I'll have a segment on this in the future, but that's one game if I could attend. In my life while I'm still a little bit younger, that's one game I would love to, just for the atmosphere, the entertainment. And then almost like the game is secondary to the atmosphere. In probably what's the biggest game of the weekend, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are hosting the Clemson Tigers. So Notre Dame is ranked 4th in the country. Clemson is obviously the first ranked team in the country, defending national champions. I'm sorry, they did not win the national title, but they made it to the national championship game last year. But Notre Dame is actually a 6-point underdog in this game. I'm going to take the Fighting Irish to cover that spread. I'm not going to quite say they're going to win the game, but I'm going to say they are going to cover the 6 points. Now, this line would be a lot higher if Trevor Lawrence was playing. With COVID-19 protocols, a strange thing I heard was he is going to be on their sidelines, but he will not be suited up for game action. I believe the way I think each conference is different, but there is some, the quarantine process, and then there's some sort of heart tests they have to pass, and he has to sit out for, I believe, 10 full days. Switching now to the NFL, I'm just going to pick one game this weekend with the NFL. The Seattle Seahawks are traveling to Buffalo, and I'm going to take the Seahawks to cover the 2.5-point spread. They are favorites, so I'm going to go Seahawks minus 2.5 over the Bills. Now, I have been 2-0 on my Big Ten upset alerts. The first weekend, I had Indiana beating Penn State, and last weekend, I had I can't remember off the top of my head, but I believe it was Northwestern beating Iowa. This weekend, I'm going to put Northwestern on upset alert versus Nebraska. Nebraska had that week off due to Wisconsin not playing, and so I'm going to put them on upset alert. So those are my picks for the weekend. Last time we had talked, I had told you the trade deadline was on Tuesday, and were the Browns going to make a move? Were they not? We were sort of unsure at that point. The Browns ended up standing pat, not making any moves, not trading any players away, not receiving any players in any trades. And I've heard both sides of the coin in the argument for and against not making a trade. My personal opinion, it would have been nice to get someone in the secondary to help for this year. What I think this front office is doing that's really smart. You're going to hear the name Andrew Berry. He's the Browns GM. He's a very, very intelligent person, and he is an analytics person that likes to accumulate these draft picks. Now, that might be you're accumulating these draft picks to move up potentially in the draft to get a better player. Might just be, quantity, and then eventually in that quantity in the draft will produce quality. So we shall see. But I think the Browns, from my perspective, don't think they're a Super Bowl contender, which most of the fan base that's rational and sane this year. We don't. I think the first step is to get to the playoffs. Get to the playoffs. Let's hope we win a game or can make some noise. But I don't think many people are expecting to win a playoff game or to advance deep into the playoffs. But, just getting to the playoffs, having a winning record. Joe and I talked about this before the season and even into the season. The Browns are 5-3 right now. I think if you told us before the season we'd be 5-3, we'd be jumping for joy. And again, I think if the Browns can finish 5-3 or even 6-2, you're going to be in the playoffs. You're going to have you're going to have a competitive matchup most likely. So we shall see about that going forward. The Browns are on bye this week. I think that's a good time for the Browns to have a bye based on just getting right and getting healthy and hopefully getting over that Raiders game so you didn't have a hangover coming into this week as well. But hopefully we get Nick Chubb back. That's like making a trade for the best running back in the league. You haven't had him for a long time. So let's get him back. Let's get Hooper back. Let's get our right tackle back, our right guard back. And, maybe a couple defensive players heal up and get well. And, that's maybe as good as making a trade. So with that said, that's where we're going to end the football talk. Although I do want to bring this up, I'm going to have Joe bring up a graphic. Since it's election week and, we're seeing all these electoral college maps, if you're listening to this on audio, what I'm doing is we're showing you right now a map of the United States and Ohio State's electoral college map. So, right now you're seeing red, blue, and is Arizona going to go to Biden or Trump? Is Pennsylvania going to go to Biden or Trump right now? But this is Ohio State's electoral college map. So those of you that are like watching either online right now, live on Facebook or on YouTube, you can see Ohio State has 36 states. So 36 states in blue that they've taken care of. There are 12 states that they haven't played a team from. So like, Alaska, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Maine. Looks like you got Vermont, New Hampshire up there, and Rhode Island. The only school that, there's a couple in the South that, Mississippi, I don't think they've ever played any teams from Mississippi. But the other two that they do not have any wins from are the state of Georgia, which surprised me, but I cannot remember Ohio State playing Georgia anytime recently. And the state of South Carolina. We know the state of South Carolina has been tough on the Buckeyes. That's what kind of got John Cooper fired way back when, losing a bowl game that really went bad to the Gamecocks. And then we obviously know Clemson, the Woody Hayes incident way back when he hit one of the Clemson players. That game ended up in a loss. And then we've had 2 of the last 3 bowl games against Clemson have been very, very, very competitive, including last year's national semifinal game. But there was one little blip where it did not go well. But so Ohio State has not defeated a team from South Carolina or Georgia that they have played. So, going forward, hopefully we can turn those red states to blue on the Ohio State Electoral College map. I just thought that was an interesting map that came up. One other note that came across the line before we went on air is a report that said the Indians are expected to trade Francisco Lindor before next year's opening day. We obviously kind of saw this coming, but hopefully they can get a good return. We all love Lindor if you're an Indians fan, but the economics and the way baseball is managed today, it's just it's what teams like the Indians and honestly probably 20 other teams have to do, that you have to work in terms of the financial structure that you can go with. And small market teams and big market teams have taken a hit with no gate this year, no attendance due to COVID-19. And that's really going to change the dynamics of baseball and some of these bigger salaries that we see, I think, going forward, at least for the next maybe couple years. And one other note from the NBA. The NBA is expected to announce soon that they are going to start play again right before Christmas, which I believe they're expecting a December 22nd tip date. We will have more information on that as it unfolds. So with that, a lot of good NFL, a lot of good college football games going forward. So big weekend of football. Next week, we're going to have some guests in to give a little Masters preview. It's pretty cool. Like, in one good way where this virus and one good thing in the sports world this virus has done is, hey, it's kind of cool. The Masters is going to be in November this year. Maybe kind of a silver lining to that. So we will talk more about the Masters and obviously get into a lot of other topics next week. I'd like to give a quick shout out to a former player of mine. She is a senior at Boardman High School, Reagan Berkey. She is going to be running in the state cross-country meet down in Columbus this weekend. So Reagan, good luck to you. Good luck to our high school football teams competing this weekend. Again, it is Canfield, South Range, Springfield, Warren JFK, and I'm missing one, and Ursuline. So good luck to those local teams. Hopefully, you come back winners, and we're talking about possibly playing for a state title going forward. So again, thanks to Melisa from Sweet Melissa's. Thank you to Major Rick Williams coming on the show ahead of Veterans Day. And thank you to Steve Leslie of YSN. Joe Danier has been running things behind the show for me today. So thank you to him. And thanks to everybody for tuning in. Everyone have a great weekend, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Studio. If you like our programming, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. This is original Youngstown content, and we would appreciate you sharing the videos and the word about us. Thank you.